very good morning to you all, our Camnet TV viewers. This is a breakfast show, a show that comes to your screen every morning where we discuss a lot of important, pertinent issues that are happening around the country. Today, Friday, we look at the business sector of what is happening around, and I am your host this morning, Prudence Chota. I will carry you through to the next about an hour and so. So we are going to be discussing a lot of important aspects, and we expect you, the viewer out there, to call and make those contributions and submissions on our show this morning. Remember, this is the 2nd of December 2022. We are coming to a wrap-up of 2022. What a year it has been. A great year, but also full of ups and downs. And I know for those who are hustling out there can attest to say this year has been quite a year, and we look forward to 2023. Remember to always keep health. Remember to always be cautious when you are on the road. We want to see you in 2023. People get excited around this time, but there's no need to get excited. Hey, there's life after all, and there are a lot of people depending on us out there. So let's be responsible over the things that we do. Let's be responsible over our lives. It might not matter to you, but your life matters to the next person. It matters to your family member. So let's be cautious even as we wrap up 2022. What a great year it has been. Thank you so much to all the Camnet TV viewers who've been accompanying us on the show, who've been accompanying us on all the programs that are on Camnet TV. Without your support, Camnet TV cannot really be there and exist. We exist because of you, the viewer, and we appreciate your viewership. We appreciate your support. To all our sponsors, we are so grateful for the thing that you've done for us as Camnet TV, and we look forward to giving you nothing but the best even as we head towards 2023. Even in 2023, we are so excited. A lot of new programs, a lot of new things, shows will be happening on Camnet TV, all because of you, the viewer out there. So even this morning, we are going to have a wonderful time, and we're going to expect you to just make those contributions and submissions. You can send us those messages on our different platforms. On our Facebook page, we have it open. There's a phone line that is open also where you can call and contribute more and more and more. I always emphasize when I come on the program to say the solutions to some of the challenges that we face in the country might be lying in you, the viewer, watching us in the comfort of your home. So if you do not call and make those contributions and submissions, it's going to be very difficult for the policymakers to know what the solution to that problem or challenge can be, because solutions lie in you, the viewer, and we want to hear your voice. That's why we give you this platform where you can call and make those contributions and submissions. But right about now, Camnet TV cares for you. That's why we bring you the morning boost so that you can exercise along with us. So let's go directly into our morning boost. Let's exercise. If you cannot do it at this particular time, this is a recorded program on our Facebook page. When you knock off before going to bed, you can just exercise with us so that you remain a healthy person. Remember, a healthy nation relies on its healthy people. So right about now, we are going to go into our morning boost.
Hi ladies and gentlemen, Cholwe again from Cho's Fitness Gym at Camnet Fitness segment. Alright, so we're going to start with the stretching. Again, as usual, stretching, very important here. Top. You want to stretch those muscles every time before you begin working out. Stretch.
I know exactly what I have to do. I don't wanna be alone tonight. You're what you make me feel. I'm with somebody new. Oh baby, I'm dancing with a stranger. You're what you make me do. I'm with somebody new. Oh baby, I'm dancing with a stranger. Dancing with a stranger.
Jump front and jump behind. Go. That's gonna get your heart pumping, pumping, jump front, jump front. Remember, 1 minute. You can go longer. The sequence as many times as possible. Okay, next one. Here, take a deep breath in and out. We're gonna go for 10 to the side. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. The other side, we're gonna go for 10. 1, 2, 3. This is actually like a stretch also. 4, 5, that's 6, that's 7, 8, that's 9, 10. We go for 5. And this is a minute countdown. 2, make sure I breathe in. 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We go for 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Next one, 1 minute. We're just gonna run on the spot. Go at your own pace. If that's too hard, here, 1, 2, 3. There's always something for everyone. Size, excuses, modified, beginner, advanced, intermediate.
And what's the point of hiding? Everybody knows we got unfinished business. And I regret it if we didn't say this isn't what it could be. You could break my heart in two, but when it heals, it beats for you. I know it's forward, but it's true. You could break my heart in two, but when it heals, it beats for you. I know it's forward, but it's true. I wanna hold you when I'm not supposed to. When I'm lying close to someone else, you're stuck in my head, and I can get you out of it. If I could do it all again, I know I'd go back to you.
Then side to side, side to side. Breathe, breathe. Thank you.
There you have it. That was our morning boost this morning. I hope you have exercised along with us. Mr. Alan Young called Muia there. I hope you are exercising this morning. I can see you've tuned into Camnet TV on our Facebook platform. We appreciate your viewership, and I hope you were exercising this morning. Remember, keeping exercising is very important for your fitness, for your body. We need a healthy people for us to have a healthy nation. Speaking about being healthy, also we are going to look at the Doctor's Corner. What is it that the doctors have for us this morning? Remember, your health is your wealth. We care about you as Camnet TV. That's why early in the morning on this breakfast show program, we bring you the morning boost, and we also listen to what the doctors have to say on the other medical side. Remember, even if you do not feel you have a problem in your body, it's important for you to go and have a checkup. We've been hearing a lot of incidences of people just falling, and unfortunately they've lost their lives. They didn't even manifest any signs of being healed and stuff like that, but someone just collapses and they lose their life just like that. It's because most of the time we might have problems or complications that we don't even understand. But when you keep going to health facilities, have yourself checked up, have a body check once in a while, not always, but once in a while. That is important. Then if you also have a particular illness that you do not understand, this platform gives you an opportunity to just hear what the doctors have to say concerning that particular illness that you are facing. A lot of important aspects have been given to us by the doctors, and this morning let's get to hear what they have to tell us.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Mainga Nalube, and I'm with the Medical Women's Association of Zambia. This week, we've been discussing a very important topic and a very common condition. This is high blood pressure, otherwise known as hypertension. We discussed what it is, its risk factors, the signs and symptoms, complications, and we also talked about its diagnosis and treatment. So for today, we're just going to wrap everything up and go through it step by step so that we know what take-homes we should have, what things you should always remember about high blood pressure. So we said blood pressure is the force with which blood goes through your arteries. We discussed what arteries are, from your heart going to the other parts of your body. So we also talked about the types of high blood pressure. Your high blood pressure could be primary or secondary. The doctors usually know this. So you'll be told you have high blood pressure, but they'll do tests to see if you had a condition or a disease, or were you on any drug that could have caused this high blood pressure. That's secondary high blood pressure. But then primary, we also have primary, which is high blood pressure that's not caused by any underlying or already existing disease or condition. So we also went ahead and talked about risk factors. It's very important that you know the risk factors so that you know if you have these, you know how to prevent eventually having high blood pressure. So we said some of the risk factors, and just to split them, we said that we have modifiable and non-modifiable risk factors. Modifiable being those things that you can, being those risk factors that you can do something about, so you can change them. You can change something about it. And then for non-modifiable, these are the ones that you cannot do anything about. So for the non-modifiable risk factors, we say these are things such as your family history. You don't choose what family you're born into. And so if you're born into a family with people that have hypertension, there's a high chance that you could also have hypertension in future. But this does not mean that it's for sure and it's certain that you have hypertension. No. It's just a high increased chance. It's not 100% chance. And so another example of a non-modifiable risk factor is old age. We don't choose if we're going to get younger or get older. We keep getting older. And so with old age, you have an increased chance of having hypertension. So with hypertension treatment, we mentioned that we focus on those risk factors that we can do something about, which are the modifiable risk factors. These are things like reducing or completely stopping alcohol intake, stopping smoking, reducing your weight if you are overweight, and increasing the amount of exercise that we do. We mentioned that each and every person should have at least 30 minutes of a short exercise. It could even be walking every day to keep healthy. And so away from what it is and the risk factors, On Tuesday, we looked at the signs and symptoms and the complications of hypertension. We mentioned that hypertension has been known to be a silent killer, especially when people don't have regular checks of their BP. We mentioned that if you do present with signs and symptoms, most of these signs and symptoms are non-specific, meaning it could mean that you have even just another disease and not hypertension. Some of these could be a headache. Something like a headache doesn't always mean you have hypertension. And so that's why it's important that we have regular BP checks to be sure. And then we also mentioned that there are very huge complications for untreated or undiagnosed high blood pressure. So that's why it's also very important that we keep having regular checks, especially if you have the risk factors that I mentioned. So complications could be things such as stroke being the most important one. You could also have things such as a heart attack. You could have visual problems or visual loss. So you could, high blood pressure could cause blindness. You can also have kidney failure. So seeing that these complications are very big, it's very important that you go for your checkups. This is something that I want you to take home from this week's discussion on hypertension. Have regular checkups. And we do this even in the hospitals. When you come to the hospital, even just for anything else, we do your vital checks. And part of these vital checks, we do your blood pressure. And the other thing that we talked about was how to diagnose and how to treat hypertension. So we said when you go to the hospital, they use a BP machine. This could be automated, an automatic one, or a manual BP machine. For those who are living with hypertension, it's very important that you can either buy, if you can afford, you can buy an automated BP machine and have it at home, because you have to regularly check your BP as you take your drugs for the doctor to review every time you see them. Or you could go to your nearest pharmacy, nearest clinic, and have your blood pressure checks. We also mentioned that if you're living with BP, it's good that you have a record. You could keep a little small book. You could buy a little small book and record your blood pressure check all the time. This is very important for the doctor to see when you go back for your reviews. We also mentioned that on diagnosis, sometimes the doctors can do further tests to see if there's been any complications in your organs. So things such as visual tests, tests on your urine to see if there's been any damage to your kidneys, tests on your heart. We also mentioned that for the treatment, there's two forms or two modalities of treatment. We could focus on lifestyle modifications, and also we have drugs which we call antihypertensives that we give to people who have high blood pressure. So these could go hand in hand. We said lifestyle modifications is simply changing those things, those risk factors that we mentioned can be changed, or something can be done about them. And we also mentioned one very important thing that I want you to go home with, that I want you to always remember about high blood pressure, is that don't believe the myths that you're told about it. So don't believe the myths that you are told about high blood pressure, because if it's treated, you could live a long life and have a good quality of life. But if untreated, you could have the complications that we've talked about, and these things could actually lead to death. So you don't want that to happen if you're living with high blood pressure. It's very important that you follow everything that the doctor tells you about it, and take your drugs. If you have drugs for high blood pressure, take them daily to avoid these complications. Thank you so much for following this week's topic, which has been high blood pressure, or otherwise known as hypertension. My name is Dr. Mainga Naluwe, and I'm with the Medical Women's Association of Zambia.
Hypertension was the topic of discussion this week, and the doctor there, Dr. Mainga Naluwe, was speaking to this aspect. A lot of important things have been said. Actually, I didn't know that if you have hypertension, you are likely to have other complications such as kidney failure, if at all it is not well treated. So if you are having hypertension, very important for you to have regular checks, just as the doctor has indicated. But sometimes, even if you don't yet have hypertension or you've not been diagnosed with this particular illness, it's just important for you to go to health facilities and have your body checked. Sometimes you might not even realize it that you have hypertension while you are living with that condition. And the next thing we hear is bachite na bachito kobali pona, and they've died. That's not good. So let's have regular checkups, at least create a little bit of time to just go to the hospital and have your body checked up. I know most of the time we say, no, Nadiwako busy making money, I'm busy hustling. Yes, you cannot hustle if you have a problem. You cannot hustle if you are in the grave, but you can prevent that by ensuring that you have a checkup at health facilities. Very important aspect. Camnet TV cares for you. That's why we also hear what the doctors have to say on this program over certain illness. Hypertension has been one of the leading causes of death in the country. And most of the time, people who die from this particular illness sometimes do not even realize that they have it. So very important. I'm not a health expert, but I'm a journalist, and I've heard also what the doctor has said. The regular checkups are very important. If you have that condition, you can live a long life if you follow the right prescription and diagnosis. Nothing is impossible if at all you do what you're being told. Yeah, but of course, nothing also is impossible with the Lord. We know that's true, and it is there written in our Bible, if you do read the Bible. But also ensure that we go to health facilities and have ourselves checked up. Right about now, we are also going to zoom into some of the stories that made headlines in our news yesterday. There's an important aspect that has been discussed this week. If we all know for a fact that Konkola Copper Mine, Zambia's largest mine on the copper belt, of course, has been under liquidation, and the Patriotic Front administration, the United Party for National Development, has decided to settle the matter out of court, and the clergy on the copper belt who are representing other people think as though it is taking longer than usual. So we are going to zoom into that story that made headline in our news yesterday. But before we do that also, let's look at our money market. How is it that our local currency is performing against other major convertibles this morning? It's important to know how is it that our local currency is faring against other major convertibles. There you have it. Kwacha not performing according to what we expected or have seen it perform in the past few months. We've seen our local currency is now depreciating at an alarming state. I hope we hear something about this sooner than later. So the kwacha against the United States dollar is buying at 16 kwacha 95 ngwe and selling at 17 kwacha 28 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the Great British Pound is buying at 20 kwacha 72 ngwe and selling at 21 kwacha 12 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the euro is buying at 17 kwacha 77 ngwe and selling at 18 kwacha 12 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the South African rand is buying at 0.95 ngwe and selling at 0.97 ngwe. That is the money market for today, 2nd of December 2022. And of course, our local currency not performing according to what we've seen it do in the past few months. It has done better, but our local currency there is slightly depreciating. We don't want to see it continue doing that, because remember, we've not even yet started reservicing our loan. We have a huge debt burden of over 30 billion United States dollars, which we have to begin servicing. So if we begin to see our local currency depreciate now, so what will happen if at all we now start servicing our debt, where we have a lot of dollars being pumped out of the economy? So we just hope the best to all the players who are helping us stabilize our economy. That is the Bank of Zambia, the Ministry of Finance, the United Party for National Development administration, all their leaders. We wish them all the best, because they are the ones who are working to ensure that they control things. But we are not really happy to see our local currency begin to depreciate at this particular time. Talking about the depreciation of our local currency, we know that we have a target of reaching a certain figure in terms of how much we want to see produce in terms of copper in our country to attain some of the things that we want to see, like a stabilized economy. So to do that, we need to see our mining running. But on the copper belt, we know what has been happening with the giant mine that is Konkola Copper Mine and Mopani Copper Mine. This week on Wednesday, we did see the clergy on the copper belt travel all the way from the copper belt to Lusaka, where they held a press briefing here in Lusaka. Among the things that they discussed in that press briefing is that if Vendata is the only mining company that has expressed interest in reinvesting back in Konkola Copper Mine, can the government give it back to them? The people on the copper belt, do you agree with this suggestion? Perhaps maybe we want to hear from you who are watching us on the copper belt. Do you agree that government should give back the mining, Konkola Copper Mine, and of course Mopani to Vendata? We know what transpired and what led to the liquidation of the mining, because they did not live according to the contract. What they signed and what they promised is not what they delivered. It was the opposite, which forced the government to liquidate the mine. But they say if given an opportunity to come back, they would do things better, and they should be given rules and regulations in which they should operate. So the clergy on the copper belt feel just leaving the mine the way it is now, we are destroying it more. If at all Vendata has expressed interest of reinvesting back in the mine, let's give it back to them. Or if there is another investor, give it back to them. But if there is no investor, let's give back the mine to Vendata so that we see the mine become operational. It is, of course, an economic asset on the copper belt, and without it, the impact has been felt. A lot of contracts have been terminated. A lot of people have lost employment. We've also seen a lot of companies' contracts being terminated. And remember, those companies equally have people who they employ. So do you think it is right that the mines should be given back to Vendata? We are going to hear what the Citizen First Party President, Harry Kalava, yesterday said over this issue, who disagrees with the clergy who represented people from Chingola and Mufurila. For them, they were representing people in these areas that have mostly been affected. And they are saying, hey, if that investor is willing to come back, give them back the mine. But for those who are watching us on the copper belt, perhaps we want to hear also what you have to say concerning this particular matter. But let's see what Citizen First President Harry Kalava said yesterday over the same issue. The call by the clergy on the copper belt to have Konkola Copper Mines be given back to Vendata Resources Limited has shocked First Party President Harry Kalava, who feels the interest of the people of Zambia is not being well represented.
So this is why we are saying, Akan and Kantuka Republic, they are the only ones, Vendata, that has shown interest to say they are willing and ready to come back, based on the new policies that they will be given.
Mr. Kalava has reminded the United Party for National Development UPND administration that while in opposition, they lied to the Zambian people that they had plans for KCM and that they had found an investor who was willing to invest back into the mine when in fact not.
The UPND, when they were in opposition, they had clearly said that they already had a plan for KCM and that they had a more substantive investor apart from Vendata. Where is that investor they were telling us before the elections? We all thought it was an issue they were going to deal with immediately they came. What we have seen has been back and forth. Clearly, there's been no plans on KCM, and now they want to go back to Vendata, being sponsored by the people that should be speaking for the people in the mines.
The party president has since advised the government to come up with a robust plan for the mining sector and not dwell on the past by giving the mine back to investors who failed to live up to their promise.
What has changed? All of a sudden, because they're talking outside court, the government has found it prudent to begin now looking at Vendata when they had told us that they had an investor. This is not good for the community in Chingola. This is not good for the country, for our country Zambia, and it should never be tolerated. I think government must come up with a robust plan for our mining sector. Clearly, the years that they spent in opposition have never helped them or prepared them to run our mines.
Meanwhile, Patriotic Front Deputy Media Director Edwin Lifwekelo says the country does not need investors who failed to honor their contract and says what KCM needs are new investors.
had removed and put a liquidator there, is working round the clock to ensure that they raise voices, divisive voices, that will give momentum to their objective of ensuring that it's them that must come back to run KCM. Why is it that Vendetta all of a sudden has had a capacity, and why all of a sudden Vendetta becomes an institution which is a darling to the unions, which only yesterday unions were saying Vendetta must not come back and should not be allowed?
Now, the country awaits to hear from the authority over what decision it will be taking concerning the giant copper mine on the Copper Belt. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News. There you have it, Citizen First Party President Harry Kalava and of course Patriotic Front Deputy Media Director Edwin Lifwekelo equally contributing to this particular matter. But we want also to hear you, Kopala, the ones watching us from the Copper Belt who have been affected by the closure of this mine. Do you really agree with the clergy over this issue? I know that we are representing people from Chingola and Mufurila, and of course they mentioned to say the way the mine is not benefiting the people. Before we know it, the things on the mine will be more destroyed than they are now. Better off giving back an investor if at all they are willing to change. The clergy believes in the United Party for National Development and their policies, and they feel if Vendetta is given back that responsibility, there is no way they are going to abrogate the contract. That is according to the clergy, speaking on behalf of the people of the Copper Belt. But Vakopala, do you agree that we should give them maybe back the mines since the issue is now being settled out of court and they are willing to come back? Or maybe should we look for new investors? But in the process of looking for new investors, what if we don't get those new investors to reinvest back into this mine? These and many more issues we are discussing this morning. Then yesterday also, something interesting happened, something that shocked the entire country, shocked the entire world in many aspects, and that is with regards to the 12 girls that were abducted, among them Pamela Chisumpa. But maybe before we go to that story, let's pick up this call. Hello? Hello? Hello, good morning. Good morning. Hello, good morning. It's quiet. I don't know where the issue might be, if it's on our side or on the other side, but we are unable to get what you're saying. We are just going to cut and give you an opportunity to call back so that we pick up that call. Unfortunately, we lost that caller. We want to hear from all those who are watching us this morning. We were just, I was just earlier talking about the issue of Konkola Copper Mine, where the clergy on the Copper Belt representing the people of Chingola and Mufurila are calling on the government to give back the mine to Vendetta. If at all, it is the only institution that has expressed interest to reinvest back in the mine. Better have them, have people employed, have the economy running, rather than closing the mine when it is giving the country absolutely nothing. So let's get to hear what you have to say over this particular issue. But also, yesterday, as I said earlier, something important happened, a matter that shocked the entire country, the entire world, where girls were abducted by some people in Lusaka, kept for some time away from their families, abused, and a lot of things happened. Appeared in court yesterday for the first time since they were arrested. They appeared in court. So far, we know that from the police, we've really heard not much over this issue. What we know is that they were rescued, they've been reinstated back in community and stuff like that. Maybe before we zoom into that story, let's pick up this call. Hello? Hello, good morning. Hello, boss. We no shine your call. Line taidi clear sana, shine mkwai. Basi nkala, mletu tumina kufuma kuisa. It's good to know that Chingola Mreo for this morning. So go ahead with your contribution. Mkwai. Okay. Okay. Toteram Kwaiba Sinkala. Sinkala there from Chingola. Of course, he says, please, we want Vendata back. Give them back the mines. We know that the copper belt operates on the mining, and it is, of course, the giant economic aspect of the copper belt. So give them back the mine. We want them back. We can't also ignore the fact that they did a lot of social corporate responsibility that cannot be overlooked, despite them having done wrong things. So at least we have someone on the copper belt agreeing and saying we want Vendata back. So also now we are going to zoom into the story that I've just talked about over the 12 abducted girls, among them Pamela Chisumpa and others. So let's hear what happened yesterday. For the first time, the criminals in this aspect appeared in the courts of law. Let's zoom into that.
James Mulenga, the man accused of kidnapping 13 young women earlier this year and repeatedly raped and assaulted them in his apartment over multiple days and subjected his victims to over 6 months hell before they were rescued by the police in October 2022, has appeared before the Lusaka's Magistrate Court Thursday with his co-accused Matthews Sikaonga. The two accused persons, aged only 22 years old, made their appearance before Magistrate Trevor Kasanda, where charges of the alleged offense they are said to have committed were read to them. The state have slapped Mulenga and Sikaonga with 53 charges, among them assault, rape, aggravated robbery and human trafficking. According to court records, the accused are alleged to have stolen various items from their victim, such as phones, money. Among one of the victims, in about mid-April this year, Pamela Chisumpa, aged 22, who was working at a mobile money booth in Lusaka's Central Business District, went missing while at work, in a case that left many people with every feeling: fear, shock, pain, worry. Since then, the public remained alarmed, especially that there were other reports with faint details indicating that other young people were being targeted for adoption. The police had instituted investigations into the adoption of Pamela, but May, June, July, August and September came and went without any intelligent investigative response in sight. But on the afternoon of the 3rd of October 2022, upon being alerted by members of the public, the police managed to allocate the 13 missing victims. They had been kept at one of the houses in Lusaka's Chalala area. Magistrate Kasanda has adjourned the case to the 12th of December 2022 for possible committal to the Lusaka High Court for their trial proceedings. The two accused persons remain in custody. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
There you have it, the two, what do you call them? Are they criminal suspects in this particular matter? Yesterday appeared before the courts of law. This is one thing I don't understand over this particular issue. Two people are appearing over having been behind the abduction of about 12 people. Did they do it alone, and why are they the only ones appearing before the courts of law? That is a story that we will be following up on Camnet TV to just try and understand what has happened to the other people who were linked to have been also involved in this particular issue. We can't have two people appearing, and these, of course, cannot have been the only ones behind the abduction of 12 people, keeping them hostage for about 6 months. That was a lot of period for two people to have acted in this particular case. I don't want to speak for the police, but my duty is to report things that are factual. So we will follow up with police officers to try and understand what other players were involved in this issue and what is happening with them, because I hope when you have a particular scandal, you expect everyone to appear in court, but as it stands, we only have two people appearing in court. That's a story that we will be following up in our news today on Camnet TV, and hopefully at 19 hours we can have some answers to why only two people have appeared in this particular case. But do you also you can also send us those comments, contributions that you have with regards to some of the stories that made headline. Remember, we've talked about the issue of giving back Vendata, the mines, that is Konkola copper mines on the copper belt. We've even had the caller who's backed what the clergy were saying to say, give back the mines to Vendata, if at all it is the only investor that has expressed interest in reinvesting back into the mine. Then we've also seen that story where two abductors in the 12 girls that went missing this year, who were sexually abused and who were, of course, kept in hostel for quite some time, appeared in court yesterday. 2 of them only. Anyway, let me not say much on that particular issue, but we hope to get more answers today as the day moves on. So even right about now, we know the topic of discussion this morning is, of course, the 2022 to 2023 FISIP program. What role do agriculture extension officers play in the FISIP distribution? So we will be inviting our guest in as we begin to discuss this particular topic, which is of interest. We know the 2022 to 2023 farming season has been quite a challenging one with regards to inputs. Some farmers have not yet begun to access their inputs, but we've seen the rains in some particular parts of the country. So wherever you're watching us from, if you are a farmer, let's get to hear the challenge that you are facing. Call us and let's get to know the challenges that you are facing in accessing inputs this year. So we are going to have someone, of course, in studio from the Agriculture Technical and Professional Staff Union of Zambia, who's their General Secretary. So let's go on a short break, even as we allow our guests to settle this morning.
Good news, good news. The rains have started. You need to plan your future. Generation wealth is the way to go. Has grafted avocado plants fruiting within 2 to 3 years for sale at only 90 kwacha each, and ordinary avocados at only 45 kwacha each. Contact us on 0979 753010 or 0962 965 883. We are open from 8 hours to 17 hours, Monday to Friday, at Healing Word Ministries International in Ibex Hill, opposite Hilltop Hospital.
Thank you so much for staying tuned to Camnet TV. Remember, Camnet TV is not just another channel. That advert which you just played there, if you want to invest in a long-term investment retirement package, Camnet TV is a place to visit. Those Hass avocados, of course, are on sale. You can grab yourself some plants, have them planted as you wait for them to fruit, as you wait to retire. It can also be a retirement package for those who are working. And of course, for those who are planning to go into this avocado business, it's quite a profitable business with a right investment. So you can get yourself, grab yourself 1, 2, 10, 100, thousands, because they are there in thousands, in hundreds. You can get yourself those plants and you can start up that avocado business. Talking about agriculture, agriculture is the backbone of Zambia's development. We know without agriculture, we cannot flourish as a country. We know without agriculture, it is impossible for us to attain the things that we want to attain as a country. Agriculture is the backbone of this country. And of course, the United Party for National Development, UPND administration, has been on a strong note talking about improving the agriculture system. But are we seeing that happen this year? The 2022 to 2023 FISIP program has been a challenging one, but we just wish our government all the best to ensure that they, of course, deliver according to the promise, and the farmers do not get affected. Agriculture Technical and Professional Staff Union of Zambia is joining us this morning on set, and their General Secretary, Mr. Justin Imponde, is my guest this morning. Sir, good morning.
Good morning, thank you.
It's good to see you this morning, and I'm excited to know that you can make it to this program.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Is this the first time we are hosting you on Camnet TV?
Yeah, correct. This is the first time.
I'm sure we are going to have a fruitful discussion. For the farmers who are watching us, wherever you are, let's get to hear the challenges that you are facing in accessing your inputs this morning. The policymakers are listening. The Minister of Agriculture is listening. Their Permanent Secretary are listening. Their officers are listening, and this is a program where we are giving you an opportunity to air that voice. So our topic of discussion this morning is the 2022 to 2023 FISIP program. What role do agriculture extension officers play in the FISIP distribution? And of course, we have Mr. Justin Mponde in studio just to keep us going. Mr. Mponde, tell us more about APSUS and who are your members. Maybe our viewer watching out there would like to know, what is this union and who do they target?
Thank you so much, Madam. APSUS simply means Agricultural, Technical and Professional Staff Union of Zambia. We draw our members from Ministry of Agriculture. We also draw our members from Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock.
Okay.
We also have a few members from Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises. Then we have a few also from the private sector, which is Livestock Cooperative, which is situated at Showgrounds. Yes, but we are doing some recruitments countrywide, where we need to expand our tentacles so that we get more numbers, even from the private sectors.
Okay.
Sure.
The private sectors, you mean the ones who deal in agriculture, or are you talking about other people who might not even belong to the agriculture sector?
Those that are into agricultural production, be it livestock, be it crops, those are our target. Yes, agriculture is general, it's not just crops.
Okay.
So even fish farming is agriculture, aquaculture is agriculture, rearing of livestock is agriculture.
Wow.
So we are targeting all those. I'm happy to mention to you that we have gone into Zambia Sugar. Yes, only that we are doing a few arrangements as regards to documentation. Yes.
We know the rain season is here. 2022 to 2023 farming season has come on time. We've seen the rains in some parts of the country have already started pouring and stuff like that. So now we want to know, what role do agriculture extension officers play when it comes to the distribution of FISIP, even before maybe we talk about FISIP itself?
Thank you so much, Madam. Our officers, who are the agricultural extension officers, they play a very critical role in the FISIP program. I would start with selection of the farmers or the would-be beneficiaries under FISIP. It is done by the camp extension officers. And when you come to the issues of sensitization, they need to sensitize the farmers on how to go about the FISIP modalities. They also play a key role in explaining the modalities that are stipulated in the FISIP manual, implementation manual. So our officers are critical, our officers are key in this program, and we need to appreciate them. They play also a key role in the recommendation of the would-be beneficiaries. They also provide technical support to the farmers so that the farmers are able to do what is right in their farming activities. Yes.
So when you talk about them doing the selection, you mean they are the ones who select people to benefit from the FISIP program for this particular year?
Correct.
Okay.
They are the ones who are involved through the camp agricultural committees, which are called the CACs. So our officers are the ones who select the farmers to benefit from the FISIP program.
What are some of the challenges that your officers face when it comes to selecting the beneficiaries on the FISIP program?
The officers, yes, face a number of challenges as regards to selection, especially where there are a number of farmer groups which have mushroomed, and some may not be registered, but according to the implementation manual, FISIP, it is guided that those should be the farmers who are from registered cooperatives, registered farmer groups, and those are the ones who should participate in the FISIP program. Thank you.
Okay. You've mentioned the aspect of an implementation manual. Maybe for those who are watching us for the first time, they might be wondering, officers follow what is called an implementation manual. Let's just talk a little bit about this implementation manual. What is it? Because we see the manual change almost on a yearly basis. Like when the year is about to start, they'll give officers an implementation manual. So what is this implementation manual exactly speaking to?
FISIP implementation manual is a guide. It has some stipulated guidelines which the officers follow when selecting the would-be beneficiaries on how the program will run. It stipulates how the farmers will handle this program, how they will be registered, what documentation is needed for them to access the farming inputs. So it's a very compacted manual which clearly states how the program will run. But many of the times, officers face a number of challenges, especially from the politicians. There is what we call political influence. And this has become a thorn in the flesh of our officers, because they are not following what is being stipulated in the manual because of the political influence.
So who prepares this manual? The manual that the officers follow in that particular year. Who is it that comes up with that manual when it is given to the officers? And then later on we see politicians come in and also do what they feel is right and not really what is in the manual. So how is this manual prepared? And who are the key players that are involved in this implementation manual?
Thank you so much, Madam. The FISIP implementation manual is prepared by the Ministry of Agriculture, which is mandated by government. And there are officers who are involved in the preparation of this FISIP implementation manual. So a number of stakeholders are involved. The Zambia National Farmers Union. We also have the private sectors who play a critical role as regards to preparation of the FISIP implementation manual. And it is done yearly. Of course, there are revisions that are done so that the document is perfected. Correct.
So now at what point do we see political interference come in?
Political interference comes in at the time of when the exercise begins. That's when you hear this politician comes up, no officers need to do this, no farmers need to do this. So it really confuses our staff. And it puts our staff at a risk because they are exposed to a number of statements, especially from the farmers, that our minister or our PS or our leader says this, and yet the manual says differently. So it creates a very, the environment which is not favorable. So we are urging as a union, we are urging our able government through the Ministry of Agriculture to ensure that the FISIP implementation manual is critically followed so that we implement the program the way it is intended to be implemented.
I like the aspect that you've talked about, appealing to the government and of course other stakeholders to ensure that they follow the implementation of the manual. Just to think about 2 weeks ago, Mr. Mponde, the Minister of Agriculture, that is Ruben Piri, of course held the press briefing, and I of course raised that question to say there is a lot of confusion that is happening around in these fields, because you, the government, are speaking to issues that are not in the implementation manual. So you come up with this implementation manual as the Minister of Agriculture, which you give an extension officer to follow through. Like, for example, this year, there was that aspect of collecting of inputs, where it was stipulated that, is it the way it has been in the past, where someone comes to collect on behalf of the group?
Correct.
Is it what was in the manual? And then you see that government on the other side, or maybe the minister on the other side said, no. Each person has to go on their own and collect the inputs. So what has been happening is this agriculture extension officer is having a lot of people at their offices lining up to collect inputs at the same, as opposed to the way it was being done in the past, where only one person comes to collect on behalf of the group. And the minister at this meeting says there is no need to stick to the implementation manual if at all you see there is a problem there. So we don't really need to stick to the manual, but we need to do what is right. Where we see that the manual says no, an individual should come, and then we see that that's not happening, we are going to say, okay, let the group come. So we can make pronouncement without even really having to follow the implementation manual. These were the words of the Minister of Agriculture.
Well, that's where the confusion is, coming from. Because in the first place, I would ask, what's the purpose of the implementation manual? It's to guide people so that they do what is correct. Now, if we bring in statements on a daily basis, it confuses the officers, it confuses the farmers, it confuses everyone. So we need to ensure that what we lay down on as regards to what should be followed is followed, so that we do the correct thing. Yes, I would agree with you that in the past, farmers, maybe the chairperson or the vice chairperson of a particular cooperative or farmer group would go and get the inputs on behalf of the rest of the members. That way it was working fine, because the way the camps are, they are vast.
Okay.
And the farmers, the small-scale farmers, are located, or they are dotted around in all those places. And some stay in far places, which it becomes a little bit difficult for them to, access the inputs. So the way it used to be in the past, where a representative gets on behalf of the other members, it worked well. And what works well, we can keep using it. Yes. But if a system is bringing more confusions, why use it?
The 2022 to 2023 FISIP distribution program, how would you describe it as a union? I know a lot of your members have been having a hard time even explaining to them what is happening. So just briefly, how would you explain the 2022 to 2023 FISIP distribution?
The 2022-2023 distribution of farmer input support program, I think it hasn't worked well. There is a lot of confusion, and I can assure you it will affect the production and productivity of the crops in our country. And that's a danger, because we may have low production because of the delay in the distribution of these farming inputs. Equally, we may have low revenue because government sells these products after the farmers have harvested. They buy through FRA and then sell and get revenue for the country. So in general, I would say the program hasn't worked well. A number of challenges have been experienced by our officers. A number of challenges have been experienced by our farmers. So I would urge the Minister of Agriculture through Minister Honorable Mutoro Piri to ensure that they expedite on the distribution of farming inputs. Otherwise, we are very late. We are very late.
Do officers from your union, the Agriculture Technical and Professional Staff Union of Zambia, directly get involved in the distribution of the inputs?
The officers, they do not get involved directly. I would say their role is to monitor or to facilitate, to ensure that the farmers get what is due for them. Yes, that's their role. It's not them to be getting the bags, lifting them for the farmers, no. They just facilitate, they ensure that farmers get the right quantities of fertilizer, the right quantities of seed, and so on and so forth.
Agriculture Technical and Professional Staff Union of Zambia, APSU's General Secretary, Mr. Justin Mponde, is joining us in studio this morning, and we are discussing the 2022 to 2023 FISIP program. What role do agriculture extension officers play in the FISIP distribution? This is a topic of discussion this morning, and the farmers watching us in different parts of the country, we would like to hear from you. What has been your experience with regards to accessing inputs this year? Have you collected your inputs yet? We want to hear from you. What has been your experience? What challenges are you encountering, and what things would you like to see differently be done by the Minister of Agriculture and others involved in this sector? So we are discussing the FISIP program for this year. And of course, Mr. Mponde has mentioned that it has been quite a challenging year. And if we do not see the Minister act quickly over this particular issue, we might see low production in the agriculture sector next year. And of course, this is, I think, is it the first time we are having these challenges, Mr. Mponde, when it comes to FISIP distribution? Or maybe we've had such challenges before in the past?
Well, challenges have been there, but this year it has been worse. This year I would say it has been worse. Challenges have been there, but I think for this season it's becoming a little bit worse. Yes.
256 agriculture extension officers government intends to employ in 2022. Let's talk about that. We did see when the Minister of Finance, Dr. Sitombe Komsokotwane, was announcing the national budget 2 months ago, they did indicate that about 256 agriculture extension officers will be recruited in 2023. Has that excited you as a union, or are these enough, looking at how much deficit you have as a union?
Thank you, Madam. Well, we would say we thank government for the 256 extension officers to be employed this year. But I would indicate that that number is just a drop in an ocean. You know, we have a number of colleges which are producing on a yearly basis the graduates. We have NRDC, maybe just to mention a few, NRDC, Cooperative College. We also have from Zambia College of Agriculture, Mpika, Monze. We have graduates from the University of Zambia, from other private universities, even NRDC here. So a number of graduates are being offloaded on a yearly basis. And government has kept on employing a few under means of agriculture, under means of fisheries and livestock. So yes, we appreciate government for that number, but we are saying government should do much more in terms of recruiting the staff under means of agriculture, under means of fisheries and livestock, because more are being offloaded on the street.
Okay. What deficit are we looking at? Like, how many people do you need as a union? What deficit are we talking about when it comes to extension officers?
Well, it would be tricky for me to mention figures, statistics, but as a union, there's no limit in terms of membership. So we would need more and more and more. Moreover, when you have more, strength lies in numbers. And when you have more, that implies you have more revenue. And the more you are, the stronger you become. So as a union in terms of membership, we need more and more, but equally in the delivery of extension services to our farmers countrywide, we have a problem because the ratio for one extension officer to the farmers is standing at 1 to 1,500. Meaning to say one extension officer is saving about 1,500 farmers, which is not a good situation because it affects the delivery of extension services. Yeah, in terms of effectiveness. Yes.
Wow.
So we need more to be employed. We need more extension officers so that our farmers can get the best of the services.
That's quite a huge deficit. About one person saving 1,500 people.
Sure.
That's a huge deficit. Okay, Kevin, right about now, we are going to take a short break. We will be back soon just to continue with our discussion this morning. So right about now, we are going to take a short breather. Stay tuned to Camnet TV even as we continue to interact this morning. Remember, you can also send through those questions, contributions, and submissions with regards to what is happening in your area when it comes to collecting of the Farmer Input Support Program. I know there is a video that has been trending on social media where farmers have been seen sharing inputs, and the minister says those are just political propagandas where people are trying to show as if this government is not doing enough when indeed it is working. Do you agree with the sentiments that were done by the minister to say that information is not true, it's only being propagated by the opposition? Let's get to hear what you have to say after this short breather that we are taking this morning.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet Television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet Television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
Thank you so much for still staying tuned to Camnet TV. Remember, Camnet TV is not just another channel. This morning we are discussing the 2022 to 2023 FISIP program. What role do agriculture extension officers play in the distribution of FISIP? And in studio, I am joined by the Agriculture Technical and Professional Staff Union of Zambia General Secretary, Mr. Justin Imponde. And of course, before we went on that short break, we were discussing just about how much deficit we have when we talk about agriculture extension officers. Let's talk about some of the stories that we've heard, Mr. Mponde. Last time we did cover a story in one of your localities where agriculture extension officers have deserted a particular place because they feel there isn't enough accommodation. This place doesn't have enough electricity. There's no much economic activities happening here. So we've seen instances where extension officers have been sent in a particular area and they run away from that. So what hardships do you think officers are facing that is enabling them to run away from these areas where they are sometimes sent to?
Thank you, Madam, for that question. Well, I would state that our officers in these camps across the country, they are passing through a number of challenges. You have talked about officers deserting the workplaces. I would say yes or no. Yes, there are some of these agricultural camps. You'd find that there's literally no decent house for an officer to occupy, which becomes a little bit difficult for an officer to work from such a particular camp. And what I understand is the responsibility of government to provide accommodation, decent accommodation for an officer. So you'd find an officer is renting a thatched house, which becomes dangerous to an officer in an event that the house catches fire. So government should do a lot as regards to provision of accommodation, decent accommodation to our members of staff, who are the camp extension officers and the block extension officers. So it's the purely responsibility of government to provide accommodation.
That's not the only challenge. Why do we sometimes just see your officers when they are sent in these areas, before you know it, push agriculture officer by the vanish, once in a while? I think we've had such kind of reports before, and I know your union equally receives this information where agriculture extension officers, when they are sent to a particular place, after some time, they vanish in thin air and we don't even hear about them.
Well,
but they even continue drawing a salary on the other hand.
It's not all of them. You know, in our language we say umusukubi, utushempanga yonse. When one is a culprit, it doesn't mean all camp officers are culprits. So on that one, as a union, we are saying, I think it doesn't augur well, where somebody generalize to say all camp officers are culprits. It doesn't sound good. Yes, like I earlier stated, they are facing a number of challenges. In some of these camps, you would find there's literally no social amenities, which the officer need to enjoy, because he is a human being or she's a human being. You find the bank is kilometers and kilometers away from the camp. So he needs to leave his camp, of course, through permission from the supervisors to go and draw the salary, so that he keeps his family or she keeps her family. And there's also the issue of lack of transport. Our officers in the field are lacking transport. They are having transport challenges. You find that officers do not have motorbikes, which again is a responsibility of government to provide transport so that an officer is able to work effectively. I can assure you, if a government provides all the necessary resources, our officers can do wonders in terms of provision of extension services. Sure.
We did see the census of housing and population. They just ended census in 2022. Quite a number of motorbikes were used by the officers. As a union, have you tried to write to the government just requesting that some of those motorbikes should be allocated to your officers? We know the exercise is done, and government will have to dispose of some of the things they were using, such as motorbikes, because you can't keep them for a particular period. So have you written to the ministry, maybe asking them to see if maybe those staff can also be given to some of your members?
Yes, we had engaged the PS, Mr. Green Mbozi, over the issue of transport. And he indicated that, yes, there are motorbikes under Zamstat, which when they do all those necessary discussions at that level, they'll be able to dispose of to Ministry of Agriculture. And that's the time when these motorbikes will be distributed to camp officers across the country. But we don't know when. We are yet to get it from the PS, but we did discuss at one point. Sure.
We've also heard complaints from some of your members who have upgraded their studies. We know for a fact that sometimes people upgrade their studies, but their salary scales have remained really very low. As a union, how are you working to assist some of these, your members, to ensure that they get to the right salary scales? I think this complaint has been coming through, not just from your union. We've seen that in other unions like the education sector, where we've seen the unions in the education sector being very loud over this issue, reminding government to ensure that we have 10,000 of our men who have upgraded. Can you please move in? And we saw it happen this year when government was recruiting, where they said they'll start first by lifting the salary scales for those who have upgraded but are still getting paid low salaries. Then we go to recruiting other new members. So how also, where are you as a union in advocating for salary increment for your members who've upgraded their studies?
Thank you so much, Madam. We have engaged on several occasions the Department of HR. Even last week we were discussing over the same with the Director HR. So we have also made an appointment come next week, Thursday, God willing, who will also be engaging the Director HR over a number of issues, and what you have just mentioned is among the issues that we'll be discussing. Yes, our officers, a number of them, have upgraded themselves. Like I stated at one point, from a certificate, others have gone into obtaining diploma, others into degree, others masters, others PhD levels. But you'd find that the officers are still stuck in the same lower positions, which is very bad and it's very demotivating. So we are engaging government to ensure that the Department of HR looks into that issue quickly, so that our officers are put in the right positions where they are supposed to be. And it brings about motivation. And the motivated worker is excellent. They bring out their potential in terms of, executing their duties. Sure.
Of course, the Agriculture Technical and Professional Staff Union of Zambia is our guest this morning, APSUZ, in case you're hearing about them for the very first time. Their General Secretary, Mr. Justin Mponde, is joining us on set, and we are discussing the 2022 to 2023 FISIP program. What role do agriculture extension officers play in the FISIP distribution? I know we've talked about some of the challenges that agriculture extension officers are facing, the role that they play in the distribution of the inputs. We've also talked to the fact that our government next year plans to recruit about 256 agriculture extension officers, which Mr. Mponde here, of course, has mentioned to the fact that it is not enough looking at the deficit that they have, and they want to see more from the government. We've also looked at the aspect of the challenges faced in the accommodation of these officers, and of course, the upgrading of the salary scale for union members in APSUs. Maybe as we come to the dying end of the program, as a union, how much membership are you looking at going forward, and why do you think members should come up and join APSUs compared to other unions that we have in the sector?
Okay. Thank you. As regards to the numbers, I earlier mentioned that there's no limit. We need more members. The more members we have, the more strength we are, or the more strength we become. And the more voice we can have as a union. So for the limit, it's not there. The sky is the limit. So we need more members to come to our union. Our union, like it states, is a technical and professional union, which encompasses all those that are in the agricultural sector, all those who are in the livestock sector. And you cannot belong to a union that does not represent your interest. Some of these unions, you'd find that they don't even represent their members. And we wonder why an individual from Ministry of Agriculture or from Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock would even join such unions, which do not even represent them. So it's high time people from agriculture, officers from agriculture, from Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock came to our union, and they will be represented well.
Yesterday, you held elections in Lusaka province, where you were selecting some representative in the province at provincial level. Is it just for Lusaka, or you are doing these elections in all the provinces? And who are the people you are targeting to be part of this committee at provincial level?
Thank you so much. We have embarked on this exercise countrywide. It's not just Lusaka. We have done Northern Province, we have done Eastern, Western, Southern, and like you rightly put it, yesterday we were doing Lusaka Province. So that makes the fifth province to be established in terms of provincial executive committees. So we are remaining with about 5. Yeah, so we still have a long way. And the purpose of putting these provincial structures is to enhance coordination, so that the information that our members need is, passed on to these committees, and they also pass on to the district committees and the branches, so that we are at par in terms of information that is needed.
So who are supposed to vie for this position?
It's members of the union within the respective districts. Like for example, the Lusaka province which we had, or even these other provinces where we have done the elections, we call members of the union from respective districts within the provinces. And these are the people who come and vie for these positions. And the committee consists of about 8 members. The provincial chair, the vice chair, the secretary, the vice, the treasurer, and 3 committee members. So in total, there are 8 per province.
Okay.
Yes.
Your concluding remarks, maybe as we come to the end of the program, I'm giving you an opportunity to say what is in your heart.
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity. Well, we were discussing the issue of feasible distribution for 2022-2023 farming season. Like I earlier hinted to say, the program hasn't been handled well because of too much politics. The program's intention is very good when you read the implementation manual, but many of the times good programs are disturbed because of political influence. So let the officers, I repeat, let the officers follow the implementation manual. Should there be a change or any amendment, let it be in black and white, so that our officers are protected, not by ESAs. Otherwise, our officers will continue getting more and more frustrated, more and more confused, because they don't know where they will stand now. If this one says this, the other one says that, it's not helping. Let's ensure that the program, the way it has been designed through the implementation manual, which is feasible implementation manual, it is followed as such. That way we shall see that our officers are doing their work. And to the Ministry of Agriculture, I would urge them to speed up the process of distribution of farming inputs for this year, for this farming season. The rains are not waiting for us. And you cannot control the calendar for the rains.
Of course, we have no control over it.
We just have to do things at the right time. Otherwise, farmers are late, distribution is late. So we are urging the Ministry of Agriculture, Honorable Piri Mutoro and his team, to speed up the distribution of inputs. Otherwise, time is not there. Thank you so much.
It might be a sorry side next year if we move at the pace in which we are moving. Agriculture, Technical and Professional Staff Union of Zambia General Secretary Mr. Justin Mponde was our guest this morning, and we were discussing the 2022 to 2023 Farmer Input Support Program, which is FISIP, and of course the role that agriculture extension officers play in the FISIP distribution. For those who joined us on this program, we appreciate your company on our Facebook page, on different platforms that we were live in the comfort of your home. We appreciate you for joining us this morning. Till next time, we look forward to also having you on the program, listen and make those contributions and submissions from the authorities in office. I hope, Mr. Mpondela, they've heard your plea to ensure that we have the inputs distributed on time. At least we are listening from you, the unions who are on the ground, and seeing the challenges that the farmers are facing in accessing the inputs. We are speaking from within, not from without. So as it stands, things are not okay, Mr. Mpondela. That's right.
Things are not okay. Like I have hinted to you, things are not okay.
Things are bad.
We need to pull up our socks.
Of course, this is where we have to close the program, and I have been your host this morning, Prudence Chota, my guest, Mr. Justin Mponde, and the entire Camnet TV production team. It's bye for now. God bless you. Till next time, remember, Camnet TV is not just another channel. Keep watching Camnet TV, even as we bring you different programs, including our main news today at 19:30. We love you all, and we appreciate your company. So from me, it's bye for now, and God bless you.